Jesus is on the cross, and he's basically crying out to the Father. He's saying, listen, please forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. So he's asking for those multitude of mercies to come on these people that have just hung him on a cross, have beaten him, have done every vile and wicked thing that you can think about. And there's another correlation to this mercy and this asking the Father to forgive these people when they're bringing harm to Jesus. But the other one, and we don't have to turn there, but we all know that Stephen also was in this very similar situation when he was getting stoned. And he cried out to the Lord, do not lay charge to these people for what they're doing, because they really don't understand. They don't know what they're doing or why they're doing it, other than the fact that, they were supposed to come against the teaching of the new gospel. So they really didn't have an understanding of what the whole gospel, the good news, was yet. So they were doing everything they can to basically, defuse this new movement of what Jesus had brought forth. Okay? So the teaching that I really wanted to get into is in Matthew 18. And that's really where I'm going to spend a lot of more time. Okay? And I thank you guys for skipping around with me here, but we're going to land, I promise. This one I am going to read a little bit more of because I really want you guys to grasp this, okay? And I start out in verse 21, and it says, Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times? And that's kind of an interesting number, because I think we all know that the number 7 stands for completion. Amen. So he was trying to get out of it on the shorter scale of things here, just 7 times. And Jesus said unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. So there's a lot of mercy and forgiveness that needs to be brought forth. And basically Jesus was saying, that number was so high that he was basically saying, listen, you really just need to continue to forgive them no matter how many times they wrong you or whatever, that you get offended or rise up against you, any of those circumstances that is not bringing love or affection to you the way the Lord wants. So it says, Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. We all appreciate the parables that Jesus spoke, because as he spoke these parables, he wasn't offending or pointing out individual people. So he did it in a very tasteful way, if you can understand how parables were really spoken and taught. Okay? And it says, And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him, which owed him 10,000 talents. But for as much as he had not to pay, his Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife and children and all that he had, and payment to be, until payment basically had to be made. And the servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Lord, have patience with me, and I will pay thee. Then the Lord of the servant was moved with compassion, and loosened him, and forgave him the debt. Now that's an interesting word before I continue on, is that word compassion. If you look back in the scriptures, any time there was a mighty move of healing or a mighty move of multiplication of the food or miracles and all these different things that Jesus did, it says that he had compassion on them. And that's when things truly manifest. So, continuing in verse 28, it says, But the same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence, and he laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me that thou owest. Now that's pretty interesting that he owed 10,000 and this guy owed him very little, and he still hadn't quite grasped the message that the multitude of mercies that his Lord had on him. And his fellow servant fell down at his feet and besought him, saying, "Have patience with me, and I will pay thee." So basically it was the same scenario coming out here, but with a different end result. And he would not, but went and cast him into prison till he should pay the debt. So when the fellow servants saw what he had done, they were very sorry, and came and told unto their Lord all that was done. Now see, in the natural, there had to be a tattletale. Okay, but in the supernatural, God sees all. So there's not a closet, there's not something you can go hide, because he sees everything. Okay? So then it says, then the Lord, after that he had called him, said unto him, "Owe thee all that debt, because thou desirest me. Shouldest not thou also have had compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee?" So basically he's saying, where was your compassion? I showed you some compassion. How come you didn't show your fellow servant, or even if you had to go on to a friend or another relative, or anybody, your brother or sister? How come the compassion that was bestowed upon you or shown to you, how come that did not manifest in your heart? And how come you couldn't grasp that and carry that compassion on to the next person and the next person that you run into? And it says, and the Lord was wroth, and delivered him to the tormentors, till he should pay all that was due unto him. Okay, those are the natural tormentors. Okay, that's when they went into the jail, and they were beaten and whipped, and Lord knows what else they had done to them. So that was in the physical realm. Okay? And it says, so likewise unto my heavenly Father do also unto you, if ye from your hearts forgive not every one his brother their trespasses. So basically we know right here that it's not a suggestion that we are to forgive our brothers and sisters for an offense that they brought on to us, or something wrong. Okay? Because what it's saying here is that God himself will turn you over to the tormentors, which we know aren't the ones in the dungeons and the jails beating and whipping us. It's the spiritual and the demonic that's